Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. It is a regular town board meeting, town of Queensbury. It's April 16th, 2018. Time is 7 p.m. Would you all rise and please join Councilwoman Catherine Atherton in saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on the agenda, we have to go into the Board of Health to deal with 3 sewage disposal variance applications. Is there a motion to go into the Board of Health?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Ferrone.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We're now in the Board of Health. The first item on the agenda, please, Caroline.
This is a public hearing to consider a sanitary sewage disposal variance for John Ellis.
Okay, John Ellis lives at 56 Sunnyside North. Wishes to put in holding tanks, 2 of them, 1,500 gallons apiece. His agent, Tom Center, is here of Nace Engineering. And the variances for these holding tanks, 6 foot from the building in lieu of the required 10 foot, 13 foot from the existing well in lieu of the required 50 foot setback, 45 from the well on the west side in lieu of the required 50 foot setback. And again, this property is located at 56 Sunnyside North, town of Queensbury. Welcome, Tom.
Good evening. Tom Center with Nace Engineering. As you stated, John, it's a pretty basic variance for holding tanks. The existing system is a substandard seepage pit. Mr. Ellis is looking to have a holding tank system installed similar to neighbors, similar to his adjacent property. He actually owns the property to the west, which one of the variances for separation from that well and separation from his own well. We provided poly holding tanks due to the large retaining wall that's in front of the property. It'd be very difficult to get concrete tanks down there, so this was an easier fix to install the poly tanks down.
And it's located away from the lake and where the pumper can get to them and everything else. We did the site visit up there. Questions from town board before I open this to the public? Seeing none, are any member of the public wish to speak to this resolution 1.1, approving sanitary sewage disposal variance for John Ellis? Seeing none. Motion to approve?
So moved.
You closed the public hearing.
Closed public hearing, thank you. Motion made to approve by Councilman Ferrone.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Medevere. Roll call vote on this, please.
Mr. Medevere?
Yes.
Ms. Atherton? Yes. Mr. Ferrone?
Yes.
Ms. Switzer? Yes. Mr. Stroud?
Yes. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You knew.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Okay, the second sewage disposal variance application, Caroline?
This is a public hearing approving Lee and Chris Kruger's application for sanitary sewage disposal variances.
Okay,
Consider.
Lee and Chris Cougar, 6 Morton Road. Dennis McElroy is their agent. They would like to put an enhanced septic system in to replace the wastewater system, and they need the variances as follows. Absorption field to be 83 feet from the lake instead of the required 100-foot setback. Number 2, variance, absorption field to be 95 feet from the neighboring well instead of the required 100-foot setback. Third variance, absorption field to be 7 foot from the property line instead of the required 10-foot setback. Fourth variance, wastewater tank to be 8 feet from the property line instead of the required 10-foot setback. And the fifth variance, wastewater tank to be 4 feet from the dwelling instead of the required 10-foot setback. So, Mr. McElroy, do you wish to?
Thank you, yes. For the record, Dennis McElroy with Environmental Design, representing Lee and Chris Kruger. The Krugers are new owners of this property on Morton Drive, which is off of Brayton Lane. This is waterfront on the easterly side of Assembly Point, the Harris Bay side. One of the improvements that they felt they wanted to make, needed to make upon purchasing this property was an upgrade of the wastewater system. So we've looked at the site, there aren't many options, and those options that exist do require the variances that we've proposed. So as indicated, we would use an enhanced treatment unit, in this case a Claris Fusion 450, which would help to mitigate the fact that we were shy in some of those separation distances that are normally required. As you board members saw on the site visit, there aren't a lot of options based on the topography and the rock outcroppings in the site. So this is what we propose, and we think it's a good application of the enhanced treatment unit and a solution that would provide certainly a better condition than currently exists.
Okay, and I have one letter from a neighbor, James Morton, who basically stated that he has reviewed the plan, the replacement wastewater system for the Kruger residents provided by Environmental Design Partnership, which is Dennis McElroy's firm. And I am in favor of this project as proposed. Any questions for Dennis from the town board? Any comments or notations want to be made by the public on this matter? The public hearing is open on this. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, a motion for approval? Is that a motion for approval?
Yes,
Councilman Medavir?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Second?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Switzer, roll call vote on this, please.
Councilpersons Atherton?
Yes.
Perone?
Yes.
Switzer? Yes. Stroud?
Yes,
Medavir?
Yes.
all right.
Thank you very much.
The third sanitary sewage disposal variance, please, Caroline.
This is a public hearing to consider approving sanitary sewage disposal variances for Tom and Terry Kabricki.
All right, Tom and Terry Kabricki, well, Tom Kabricki is here tonight. He was here before as well. Had submitted a proposal. He's got a very unusual parcel. And we asked them if they would support the idea of putting a holding tank there. So he said yes, if that's what you would really like. So they are proposing 3 holding tanks with a capacity of 1,000 gallons each, for a total of 3,000 gallons. And because of the design of the property, even with holding tanks, they're gonna need, I think it's 4 variances. The first variance, 7 foot 10 inches from holding tank number 1 to the westerly side of the property in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. Variance 2, 5 foot 3 inches from the holding tank number 1 to the structure on the westerly side in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. And 3, 8 foot 5 inches from holding tank number 2 to the westerly side property line in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. And 4, 4 foot 10 inches from holding tank number 3 to the easterly side of the property line in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. And this property is located at 89 Pilot Knob Road. So identify yourself and you may add anything that you wish.
Sure. Hi, my name's Laura Cormack, and I do some of the property management for Tom Kabricki Company. We're here. Thank you for the board for hearing us, and thank you. I know some of you came out and actually looked at the property a couple weeks ago, and we really appreciate you coming out and doing that. What we're looking for is, as you said, a variance to replace the existing septic and the dry well with, it's going to be 3 separate holding tanks. They each hold 1,000 gallons. So we're just looking for these variances to get that in, and we would like to dispose of the sanitary sewer that's in there now properly so that we can, preserve the integrity of that beautiful area up there.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Any questions for Laura? I'll open the public hearing. Any member of the public wish to speak for this application? I do have one. Laura, if you'll please return to your seat, and I may have you come back to answer some questions.
Certainly. Thank you, John.
Thank you. So you may come forward.
Hey, I'm Vince O'Neill. I own the westerly property.
Vince O'Neill?
Yep.
Yes.
And I just have a couple of points looking for clarification on the plan as it was presented. The variances on the side that are adjacent to my property are for 4 and 7 and 8 feet roughly. But that leaves setback on the other side of 11, 14, and 18. And I'm just wondering why the setback or why the plan is designed to go there that needs a variance, whereas if it was moved closer the other way, A, it wouldn't need to be there would need to be a variance, and B, it would be further away from the adjacent property. So that's my first point, the first question that I have regarding the design. And the second one is just regarding that property line. Since we are talking about just a few feet there, I'm just wondering what the plan says something about a paper survey. I just don't know what survey it was that was used, because I know there's been a couple of them in the last, we just bought the property a couple of years ago, and then we had it surveyed, and during some site work, the stakes were disturbed, so we had it resurveyed, and I just don't know what, if we're talking about 4 feet 10 inches, based off of which line. I guess that's where I'm looking for a little clarification.
Well, that's what I'm looking at. Looks like the holding tanks are pretty much centered in the middle of the property, and I know it does go towards that stream, so maybe they're going towards the higher ground on that. The other thing, I believe the survey was done by Van Dusen and Steves.
We had a survey done, yes.
Yeah.
But
so did they.
But it doesn't refer to which survey, because I think there might be 3 surveys in question.
Well, the one that was pointed out to us when we were there was Van Dusen and Steves' survey.
Okay.
And
which one? Because I know that at least 2 of them were theirs. That's
Mr. Kabricki. Mr. Kabricki's, right? Their survey. With Van Dusen.
Well, I know that at the last meeting, he referred to a recent survey by Van Dusen and Steves, but that was a survey that we had done and paid for.
Yes, Ben, so we'll see if we can find out some more information.
Okay, I'm just looking for clarification on.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other member of the public wish to speak to this variance application? Seeing none, Will the applicant please return?
So we had it surveyed, or they had it surveyed 2 weeks ago, and I believe that there was some rock that was the issue, but, you know, we're gonna do it all on our property. We're gonna make sure.
And who was the surveyor?
Van Dusen and Steve's.
Yes, and they are one of the best.
And we'll give them a copy of it, absolutely, you know, and we'll work with them however we can.
What was the issue with some allegations that stakes had been moved somewhere along the way? What's the deal with that?
I honestly don't know. I know that the survey was done, and that's all I know about it. I mean, we can certainly give everybody involved copies of the survey. I don't know if they're interested in having it resurveyed.
Well, apparently they had done one survey and the stakes had been moved, and then they came back out and resurveyed, putting the stakes back where they were, which is just bizarre to me, why they would move stakes during a survey.
I really don't know. I didn't survey it myself. I just.
I know. But the allegations are out there that somebody had moved stakes.
I understand. Well, there's a lot of property owners up there. As we know, it's a bit of a sticky situation with a lot of different owners. So I'm not sure what may have gone on.
So the survey that's being referred to is your survey?
Yeah.
It's the survey that you had done?
Yes.
But if you just had it done 2 weeks ago, Tom Jarrett's plans are from February, so are these measurements accurate based on?
Based on the survey that was done 2 weeks ago, I believe they're, you know, to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Well,
But these figures were there before 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
Right. Right? So what was that based on?
The Van Dusen Steve survey.
But not theirs, theirs was only 2 weeks ago.
They had the property surveyed, but the stakes were.
Tom, you wanna come up? And identify yourself for the record?
Not very much. Yeah, the property was surveyed, they had the property surveyed. What they did is they wanted clarification of the survey stakes, Van Dusen came up twice and surveyed it.
All right, so it came up.
Jared didn't have a copy of the survey to put it on, but what we can do is we can put the holding tanks in, and we can have Van Dusen come up there, sign that with David, and pull in the Calvary and say it's on our property. The property stakes were never removed, they just couldn't find them. You know, they had it when they bought it 2-3 years ago. Then when we bought it, we came in, they couldn't find the stakes, but the stakes were there. Van Dusen found them, the stakes.
So who put the stakes in that, Van Dusen and Steve's put the stakes in?
Van Dusen and Steve's verified the stakes that were there, and they put their stakes in the first time when they surveyed for their own nails.
All right, and the holding tanks, I mean, if you look at the location of them, you know, moving them one way or the other wouldn't help that situation. They're located about in the middle, as much as you can possibly get it. And in front of the place.
This plan I'm looking at from Tom Jarrett is actually revised on 3/27, so that was about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that. Caroline had to point it out to me.
That's all I had to say.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other thoughts or questions from the town board?
So as far as the positioning of it, we're all okay with the positioning of it, and it shouldn't have been moved to the west, or to the east?
I don't think so.
Well, if Tom Jarrett revised his plan based on the new updated survey, then I would assume that that's correct for the measurement.
Okay. So this is still accurate?
Yes.
Okay, any other thoughts or questions? All right, I'll close the public hearing. Motion to approve,
I'll introduce.
introduced by Councilman Medevere, seconded by
I'll second.
Councilman Ferone. Roll call vote on this, please.
Councilperson Ferone,
Yes.
Switzer,
Yes.
Strauss,
Yes.
Medevere,
Yes.
Atherton.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. What do I do? Abstain?
No.
No.
So your vote is no.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, so that does it for the Board of Health.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move out of the Board of Health?
I'll move out.
Moved by Councilman Medevere. Seconded by
Second.
Councilwoman Switzer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye is the unanimous vote of the board. We're now out of the Board of Health. All right, the next item, and I put in one of these papers my agenda. The next item is we go over the, I believe there's 17. It's listed as 18. We pulled one of them. Resolutions. Yeah, thank you. So I will go through the 17 resolutions and then give the opportunity to speak to any of the resolutions to the public. And then we'll vote on it. All right, so I'm going to review the resolution. There's an agenda up on the board. If there's some town topic that you wish to speak to that are not a part of the resolutions that we're addressing tonight, I will give you an opportunity towards the end of the meeting to speak to the board about that issue. But for now, let's go through Resolution 3.1. Please, Caroline.
Resolution authorizing installation of streetlight at 28 Boulevard, Queensbury.
All right. Now, maybe Councilwoman Atherton would like to speak to this.
This was a constituent that contacted me. She lives down on 32 Boulevard, and it's extremely dark down there. And I did go and take a site visit, and they're kind of afraid to, it's really difficult to walk around at night. And she has a daughter that lives a bit further down, and it's just a bit dangerous. And there are poles there. There's poles, and every other pole has a light, except this one pole does not. So it's like 3 or 4 lights before there's a light. So I made this request to have a light installed.
Okay, so this is a street light at 28 Boulevard on pole number 50. Resolution 3.2. Caroline?
Resolution authorizing engagement Environmental Capital LLC to provide financial advisory services.
All right, so this is a firm, we've been very satisfied with their services, and we consult them on financial issues, disclosure submissions, general financial advisory services, bond issuances, and so forth. The name of the firm is Environmental Capital, and they have provided offered to render this service at an hourly rate of $175 to $250 per hour, depending on who's working on it and what the topic is. The budget officer is the one who's recommending the engagement of Environmental Capital. That's Resolution 3.2. Resolution 3.3.
Resolution authorizing transfer of Michael Brunel from Labor and Highway Department to Cemetery Department.
Okay, well, consistent with the collective bargaining agreement, the cemetery superintendent posted for the vacant labor position. Michael Brunel had, as a result, applied for a transfer from his current labor position in the town's highway department to the vacant labor position in the cemetery department. Mr. Brunel meets the requirements for the position and is the most qualified applicant from the town who applied for a transfer, and as such, the cemetery superintendent has requested the town board authorization to transfer Mr. Brunel accordingly. Resolution 3.4.
Resolution authorizing engagement of Economic and Policy Resources, Inc. to complete an affordable housing strategy.
All right, well, this is part of our community development block grant of $47,500. We have to put up a 5% share, which will be about $2,500. And the Stu Baker had put out an RFP, and he had gotten several results in, And there was a review committee that included Stu Baker, Jen Switzer, Catherine Atherton, and Judy Caligerio. They reviewed the proposals. The two finalist consulting teams were interviewed on March 26th, and the recommendation was to go with the Economic and Policy Resources Incorporated company. And so this is going to update our affordable housing strategy. It seriously needs updating, and if we're going to get further grants for affordable housing, we need to do this study. You know, again, it won't exceed $50,000. The contract has been reviewed by town council and approved. So, and the Economic and Policy Resources proposal is attached to this resolution. Anything you want to add, Jennifer or Catherine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, it was very important to.
All right.
Great process.
Okay. Resolution 3.5.
Resolution authorizing contract with Saratoga Musical Union.
All right. Some of these that come out of a community fund. We, or no, it comes out of occupancy tax, I'm sorry. It's $6,230. The city puts out $230. The Saratoga Musical Union puts in the remaining amount. I think it's $2,000 some odd dollars. And they're going to put on 8 concerts locally. And I'm finding part of the concert series. There's going to be 4 concert band concerts and 4 jazz band concerts. So we thought we'd get this out of the way. Yes, Saratoga Music Union is putting in $1,780. So the total cost of those concerts is $14,240. And again, Glens Falls puts in $6,230. Queensbury puts in $6,230, and the Music Union puts in $1,780, totaling that $14,240. So that's that. Resolution 3.6.
Resolution authorizing contract with All About Pickleball.
All right, pickleball has become a big hit. There's a lot of communities, not just ours, who are changing their tennis courts to pickleball courts, and the public is loving it. We've got pickleball summer fests and so forth here, and we have a request for an event. It's called a PB Summerfest 2018 Pickleball Family Fun Festival. It's a 3-day event, June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And it takes place not only at the Cool and Shoring Arena, it takes place at the town's pickleball courts in Jenkinsville. So they're asking for a $1,200 financial contribution to help offset the promotion costs and get this event going. So the town board did that favorably, and that's why we have a resolution before us tonight, Resolution 3.7.
Resolution authorizing contract with Under the Woods Foundation.
Okay, Bob and Heidi Underwood have this camp for 3 to 8-year-olds who are on the autism spectrum. And this camp for those kids, 3 to 8 years old, is located on Meadowbrook Road. They hold events, like one that's becoming ever so popular. I think it's in its 4th or 5th year now, the Churney Gurney Festival. It includes trail running, mountain bike riding, festivals for the family. It's being held August 4th and 5th right up here on Gurney Lane. And folks, in the past, this almost doubles in attendance every year. And we're finding people from Canada, Maine, Vermont, Georgia, Missouri, and they do keep track, and they're asking for $3,000 that would go towards promotion of the event so that everybody makes out on this. Resolution 3.8.
Resolution authorizing acceptance of $1,750 donation from Northern United Soccer Club to line soccer fields at Ridge Jenkinsville Park.
All right, Northern United Soccer Club has offered to donate $1,750 to the town of Queensbury Park and Rec Department towards the costs of the line of the soccer fields at the Ridge Jenkinsville Park. Now, this is a firm that works with Queensbury and Glens Falls people, and so they want to make a donation. They are the primary users of these fields, so they would like to donate $1,750 to lining the soccer fields. It's a regular maintenance thing, and so instead of costing us, they'll pay for it. Resolution 3.9.
Resolution authorizing acceptance of $3,000 donation from Northern United Soccer Club toward purchase of equipment storage building at Ridge Jenkinsville Park.
Okay. This again is Northern United Soccer Club, and they're willing to put $3,000 to replace the current equipment storage building. And I believe the equipment storage building costs around $4,000, $5,000, something in that range. So they're willing to put $3,000 towards it. Resolution 310.
Resolution authorizing acceptance of $10,000 donation from Beverly, Maine toward purchase and installation of pavilion at Hobby Pond Park.
All right, Beverly, Maine is the life of Charlie Maine. Everyone knows Charlie Maine. He was on the Park and Rec Commission for 18 years, a very active member, did a lot of very positive things for this community. He has since passed. Beverly would like to donate $10,000 towards the purchase and installation of the pavilion at Hobby Pond Park. Now, we have this pavilion, which is already in the Park and Rec capital project that they submitted last year. They didn't get to it last year. The pavilion itself is going to cost around $15,000. So this $10,000 is going to help a lot towards that building that pavilion at Hobby Pond Park for the whole public to enjoy. So we very, very much want to thank the Maines, Beverly, and in memory of Charlie. Okay, Resolution 311.
Resolution authorizing capital park improvement projects, increases in park improvement projects, and withdrawals from capital reserve number 61 and 64.
All right, and brief, we had a workshop on this and we went through it in good detail. Basically, this is the Park and Rec capital project for this year. Gurney Lane, putting about $146,000 there. Jenkinsville, $270,000. Hobby Pond Park, $98,000. Hudson River Park, about $5,000, for a total of $519,000. So $502,500. $20,000 would come from reserve number 61. $482,500 would come from reserve number 64. And so this is to approve their capital improvement projects for this year. Resolution 312.
Resolution authorizing engagement of Chief Pete's Lawn Care to mow certain abandoned or neglected properties in town of Queensbury.
Well, he hasn't started yet. We thought spring would be here before now, and we all know it hasn't. I mean, maybe a name, but not in good temperature and sunny weather. In any event, here are some properties that Dave Hatton thinks are going to need it. If they don't need it, they're not going to do it. He just wants approval to be able to do it if it does come up that they do need it. 121 West Mountain Road, 12 Jerome Avenue, 1 Main Street, 43 Lambert Drive, 3 Lynn Avenue, 26 Bell Avenue, 24 Pinello Lane, and 229 Corinth Road. So he submitted a quote for this at $485 per month, and that's if he does all of them. Resolution 313.
Resolution authorizing engagement of services of NRG Curtailment Solutions Inc. for participation. I'm having a tough time here. NISCO Demand Response Program.
All right, well, we have Superintendent of Water and Director of Wastewater here, Chris Harrington. And so he would probably be the best person to try and explain this, if you wouldn't mind. Superintendent Harrington?
Good evening. A couple weeks ago, I was down at the Adirondack Waterworks Conference. I was talking to a friend of mine, Ed Hernandez, who's the Executive Director of Saratoga County Water Authority, and I asked him how his demand response program was going. And he said, very good. He just received a check of, I think, about $14,000 for this past winter season. We used to be part of demand response back a few years ago. In the resolution, we had earned about $90,000. The program changed because there were restrictions put on generators, diesel generators for economic dispatch. So we ended the program. I've been looking to get back into it, and I made it very clear in the RFP I put out that we would not be able to run our generator. That was not a problem for the people who gave me a proposal. I think Councilman Ferrone is familiar with this program. You run it with Tribune. It is a revenue producer. There is no penalty if we cannot be part of it. We are going to be running off our storage. They give us a day ahead so that I can fill up my tanks and draw off storage. But again, if it's in the middle of the summer and I'm putting out a lot of water and I feel that I cannot meet the demand that they're asking for, I don't have to shed. Overall, what this program is about, it's about to stabilize the electric utility. The NISO watches the whole utility, and this is also a program in National Grid. This program really took off after 2003, the blackout, and instead of doing rolling blackouts, they ask commercial and municipal functions to shed load so that they can stabilize the grid for a certain amount of time. And again, there's an economic monies that we get, and it's a complicated thing how they figure out the monies. You know, there's a strip market, there's a strip auction, a monthly auction, a spot auction. Okay, so NRG came back with what I thought was the best proposal, and to ensure that it was the best monetary proposal, I asked Energy Next down in Saratoga Springs to take a look at the proposal. They were Mega's consultant. They reviewed the proposals, and they looked at it the same way I did, and they felt NRG provided the best proposal. It was even a little bit better than the program that CP Power has, which is Mega's preferred provider. So RFP went out, I reviewed it, Energy Next reviewed it, and I know NRG is also being used by Saratoga County Water Authority, so they were on demand response provider with NISO. So it's a revenue producer, and again, there's no chance of being penalized if we don't participate.
So the last time we were in this program, we made about $90,000.
Yeah, over a period of about maybe 6 to 7 years, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you make a little bit each year.
Yeah.
So what it is, again, to recap, is New York Independent System Operator, or NISO, is in charge of the grid.
Yes.
And there are times when the grid gets stressed, such as during the summer when the air conditioning's on.
It could be the winter too with an ice storm.
And the stress has led to blackouts, especially in an old, antiquated grid system like we have. This is one way of dealing with the problem, in that they try and take the heavy loads off of the grid system. We become independent during times of stress, which will reduce the stress and hopefully avoid a blackout. So they're willing to pay for us to be a partner in this program. So, George, is there anything else you want to add? You're familiar with this?
Yeah, we had that program at my previous employer. It worked very well. For us, we had a disaster recovery and business continuity plan. So it actually worked in our favor because we used those times when they asked us to test with them as our testing for the program at the office. So worked out very well. I don't know if you have to, show that, your generators work on a certain period of time, and that you might be able to document, if you ever have to go over the generator
Right, yeah. Well, we got to be careful with that because of economic dispatch, and there's all these types of rules that weren't in place several years ago for clean air. But yeah, we have a whole program for generators, make sure we run under load, and when we need it, we need it. We actually had to run it this past weekend for a couple hours.
Okay, yeah. It's a good program.
Okay, and you did an RFP.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Chris while he's up here on this topic? Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Resolution 314.
Resolution authorizing advertisement of bids for light pole improvements.
All right. Chuck Rice, who was the superintendent of building and grounds, met with Scott Schwartz. Scott suggested a couple of LEDs that might work on Main Street. So Chuck Rice had them installed, 2 on Main Street and 2 on the $1 Million Mile. And then the board went up there and we were pretty unanimous in our support. We like the corn cob style, which is done by Halco Lighting Technologies. And they run about $58.05 per bulb, but you know, if we buy them in bulk and so forth, we might be able to get them cheaper. So we have 119 lights, or 118 actually, 67 poles on Main Street, 51 poles on Route 9. Now the Clean Energy Community Advisory Committee is trying to look at what would be the best way to spend a $50,000 grant. All right, so we need prices for them to be able to put that budget, and the budget has to be submitted by June 7th. And so one of the favored ideas was to replace the Main Street and Route 9 street lights that the town owns with LEDs. And I think the savings would be substantial if Chuck's information was right. They're currently high pressure sodium, 250 watts, and they will go to the equivalent lumen output with these corn cob style Halco lighting lights, but only at like 23 watts. So according to Chuck, and that was off the top of his head, he thought there'd be considerable savings here. So we are going to get a price. What would it cost to install LED lights on those 118 poles? And then the Clean Energy Communities Committee, Advisory Committee, can consider that and they're putting together their budget. Resolution 315.
Resolution to amend 2018 budget.
All right, this is shifting money where it wasn't needed so much to where it now is needed. Things come up that you don't always anticipate, and that's usually the case in the shift of finances. Resolution 316 has been pulled. Resolution 317.
Resolution approving audited bills, warrant of April 17th, 2018.
Okay, so this is a resolution approving the warrant with a run date of April 12th and a payment date of April 17th, totaling $199,159.14. And the last resolution, Caroline, 318.
Resolution authorizing adoption of amended Town of Queensbury Workplace Violence Prevention Program.
All right, well, this needs to be updated, and so we have Town Council Pouchowitz here, and would you come forward and explain why we need these new additions, please?
Good evening. As you recall, your April 2nd meeting, you adopted an amended workplace violence prevention program and policy statement. As I indicated to you that evening, we submitted the documents to the Department of Labor for their review, and I received a telephone call today that they basically are approving the documents with 2 minor adjustments. One is on Appendix C, there was a statement that they wanted added. If you look at the bottom of Appendix C, you'll see that the statement basically confirms that the training that takes place with regard to this program would also include site-specific
hazards that have been identified. So in addition to the general training that occurs, we're confirming, as we are doing, that the training would be site-specific. The second adjustment they suggested was that we attach an additional exhibit, an Appendix D, which is the raw data that was obtained from the site visits from March 12th and March 14th. And so they suggested that we just attach that in its entirety. So that's what the two changes are in the documents that they have. Otherwise, the document is exactly what was approved back on April 2nd. And the only two changes are the additional sentence at the end, or two sentences, I believe, at the end of Appendix C, and the addition and reference to Appendix D.
And the reason why we brought it up today is because you had discussions with folks at the Department of Labor, and you know, we might be facing fines, and that the sooner we remedy this, the sooner we remedy it and not have to face more fines.
Sure. So again, as far as the fines go, what will happen is, well, two things. One, we're still having discussion with the Department of Labor with regard to the imposition of the fines themselves, and then with regard to the imposition of the fines, that there's needs to be a cutoff date by which those fines then become a finite number that we can then discuss with the Department of Labor. So part of this process is that there were three charges that had been provided to the town. Two of them deal with the program itself and the site visits. Those should take, they should be complete as of March 2nd, March 12th and March 14th, when those site visits occurred for one of the charges. And for the second charge would be when you adopt the program. And then the third will be when we demonstrate that we've done and completed the training on the program, which I've been working with the Supervisor Stroud's office in confirming that all the training has taken place and that we will be sending documentation to the Department of Labor.
Any questions for Mr. Falchowitz? Thank you. Okay, those are the 17 resolutions before us tonight. Does anybody from the public like to speak to the town board about any of those resolutions before us tonight? Yes, sir.
Travis Whitehead. I have quite a few comments to make tonight. First of all, I looked at this just after 4 o'clock today, and 318 was nowhere to be found. I just see online, you know, that there's 142 pages in the packet on this, and I'm not going to be able to read it on that. I have great concern that these things are put up without any previous notice, without any time for someone like me to take a look at it, and I think the same would apply to you. As he said, this conversation happened today. From what I can gather, you're talking about, if you pass this today, that perhaps one of the three fines may stop today instead of, like, say, at the next meeting, and that's at $64 a day. If you feel that you're willing to give up your ability to look at this thing for that amount of money, go ahead and do it. My other, I have a notation on 3.1, actually 3.2, the resolution regarding Environmental Capital LLC. While it is true that General Municipal Law 104 allows you to choose the professional services that you might desire, it doesn't give you the right to not put out an RFP. You should put out an RFP. You should look at local firms like CT Mail and Chazen and others. You could then compare it, and then you could choose these people if you want to do things right. Not sure if you do or not. Resolutions 3.5, 3.6, 3.7. My suggestion, this all has to do with occupancy tax. And one of the things that you're going to be required to do in order to be refunded on this occupancy tax is to fill out a form for the county. And one of those questions on the form is how many tourists attended each of these events. And it would make sense to me that since you're putting this together for a contract for each one of them, that would probably be one of the deliverables that you would ask these people to do. Unless you yourself would like to come up with that estimate, and I don't know why you would, I am suggesting that you add that to the contract because you are going to have to answer that question. It'd be nice to be able to say because they gave me these numbers, not because I picked a number based on, and I'm not sure what you would base it on unless you start counting heads. But I think they would be in a better, the organizers would be in a better position to go ahead and give you an accurate estimate. 3.14, I do like the idea that you're going out for bids on the lighting. It will be a good program. I mean, there's no way that a 250 watt fixture gets reduced to 23 watts, but even though that isn't true, it still becomes a very good deal. And when you look at the real numbers, and yeah, I'm glad that you're going to go out to bid on this.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the board about any of the resolutions before us tonight? Yes, sir.
Good evening. For the record, my name is John Salvador. At the close of the October 12th, 2017 meeting of the Advisory Board of the Dunham's Bay Wastewater Collection District, the results of the Lake George Waterkeepers 2017 Dunham Bay algae analysis was presented and discussed.
John, are you speaking to any of the resolutions?
No, I'm sorry. I thought this was...
No. I'll give you that opportunity to speak to that in just a few minutes. Yes, sir.
You have it, John.
They all have
But
it.
we all have it.
Yeah, I shared this with them.
Oh, you did?
We all have that. Yes.
Well, I made some extra ones in case we did have them. John Ball, Queensbury. 3.16 that you pulled, we're not for discussion, but just for the record, I made an offer $16,000 for the backhoe, and I thought for sure John was going to take it. On Friday, I showed up for with a check, with 16% or 10% down, $1,600, and I thought for sure when I talked to him on Thursday that this would be finalized and I would be owner of the backhoe. But for some reason it was pulled, and I guess I can't discuss it.
There is an opportunity for you to discuss non-resolution things at the end of the meeting, right?
Okay, but could I ask why it was pulled?
Because you brought that out for today.
Well, because
you brought that today. Your deal was off the table when you presented that to us, which we all saw today.
Okay.
Why don't you read it into the record so everybody can hear what you want us to do?
What I want you to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can speak about it?
Well, why not? Why don't we just wait?
Back in October,
a little bit.
Back in September, October, I brought Anthony Medivere up to the cell tower, where the cell tower is, right on the water tower property, and I showed him how they're illegally collecting 300 lineal feet of drainage that combines with another 200 lineal feet that's coming down from the water tower, and for a combined total of 500 lineal feet of stormwater drainage that they're collecting, and they're dispersing it onto my property. I showed Anthony the stake. It was about 1 foot away or 5 foot away from the pipe that's dispersing it. This is illegal, and I think George would agree with me, and I don't know if Anthony's going to agree with me. But I tried to find a way for you to get out of this problem. If you go around and look at different places where you have these huge crevices that are put into the ground to catch stormwater runoff, but yet Verizon never had to do that. And so my question is, you are dumping it onto my property. I did want the backhoe, so I agreed to buy the backhoe at $16,000. But also, I wanted you to buy a half-acre lot for the stormwater runoff to go onto, okay? Because right now you're dispersing it onto my property. So why don't you buy the half-acre and that take care of that issue? But today, all this rain we had today, the bottom half of that mountain is washing out. And it's all because of the work that they're doing up at the cell tower. Now, when I asked Anthony Medevere what he planned on doing about it, Anthony Medevere said, well, we can divert it and bring it all down the mountain onto the West Mountain Road, toward the West Mountain Road, okay? And then when I spoke to you, John, you thought maybe we could put an elbow on the pipe and turn it and send it down toward the West Mountain Road, okay? Both of you said we. That means the taxpayers. So the taxpayers of Queensbury are going to pay for this work that was done by Verizon, and it was accepted through the zoning board or the Queensbury Town Board accepted it.
Well, Ron, this is a good start. We don't have a resolution dealing with this topic per se. If you don't mind, I'd like to finish this conversation at the general time. If you bring this up, we'll continue.
That's all I was asking, the question. But Anthony wanted to know more about it, so I brought it up. Okay? So I made a really reasonable offer. You can get rid of the backhoe, okay?
We'll talk about it. All right,
Okay,
we'll bring
that's
it
all,
back.
that's all I asked.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to any of the resolutions before us tonight? All right, seeing none. Town Board, Council folk, your thoughts?
Yes.
All right, so on 318, there's a whereas, second paragraph, it's resolution number 144 that needs to be put into the resolution.
Okay, on resolution 318, the second whereas, there is a blank. And it says, whereas on April 2nd, 2018, by resolution number 144, the town board authorized adoption of the amended workplace violence prevention program. Okay, so that will amend that amendment in the, as noted.
On resolution 3.14, the first resolved, can we add after in the official and that there'll be published an advertisement for bids, the light pole improvements described in the preambles of this resolution in the official newspaper for the town of Queensbury and the New York State Contract Reporter.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just to make sure that we're right.
That was resolution
3.14.
authorizing advertisement of bids for light pole improvements.
Correct.
All right, so we're going to include in that the bids also include a New York State contract recorder.
Correct.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that amendment? Town council, is that fine?
Absolutely.
Okay, anything else, board? Any resolution that you'd like to call for a roll call?
Just on 312, some of those properties have been sold. We're not bound to this at all.
No, he made that point. He just wanted to get a jump on the gun.
All right, 'cause I went
Yeah,
through.
you're not bound to it. Okay. All right, seeing none for roll call, is there a motion to approve resolution 3.1 through 3.15, 3.17, and 3.18?
I'll introduce.
Introduced by Councilman Medevere.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. Roll call vote on those resolutions, please.
Councilperson Switzer,
Yes.
Stroud,
Yes.
Mattavir,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
and Ferone.
Yes.
Okay, any correspondence?
None.
None. All right, privilege of the floor. Ron, would you come back? All right, so we left with possible stormwater spillage on your property. And that I suggested that it could be redirected so it stays on town property. And I also said to you at the time we did the site visit that I would look into whether the cell company would pay for that or not. And I haven't gotten that far yet because you and I just did that Saturday. Okay? So your proposal to us is that we'll give you the tractor and $10,000 for a half acre of your property.
Correct.
Okay, so there are so many things with that. I mean, I don't know if we could trade in the tractor in that manner. Could we sell it to you outright? Yes. We've already bid on it. You were the highest bidder. Could we use it towards the property? Not in that way. I mean, could we take around if we were inclined to buy the property to go around and pay you $26,000? Well, first of all, we'd have to have the property appraised to make sure that we were paying the appraisal rate or less. And it may just be $26,000. That doesn't seem to be too far out of hand. The other thing we need to find out is, can we redirect that stormwater so it's not going on your property? So there are some of the things that we need to find out before we can give you any kind of a substantial answer. But in the meantime, we need to get rid of that tractor, and we have a front end loader, and the guy that's willing to is the dealer for the new front end loader is willing to take that tractor in, and it's the same dealer for $15,000. So right now I'm trying to find out this and that and the other things. Everything's kind of mixed up. All right, for that. But is there anything else I know that you may say?
Well, there is quite a bit more. And that road is washing out the bottom half. And the town of Queensbury is responsible for the bottom half. The top half, Verizon, according to the contract that was signed 4 or 5 years ago. And what's happened is during the winter, they went up there sometime around January, and they removed all the snow from it. The snow acted as an insulation. Once they removed the snow, they flattened the road. And when they flattened the road, they did it with the plows. Then they brought a concrete truck up there to pour concrete. When that happened, that put crevices in the road, like blacktop happens when you pull into your driveway or your garage. You go in the same spot all the time, and the blacktop will sink. Well, this is exactly what's happened to this crushed stone driveway. So consequently, whenever it rains, it washes out. I brought you up there, George, back in September, I believe, or October, sometime when I first learned about that they were dumping onto my property. If you go around and look in Queensbury, on the Sweet Road, they have a really beautiful housing development built by Al Cerrone. Beautiful houses, but got these 3 or 4 big crevices in the ground. That's to catch stormwater runoff. And there's new hotels built over there on the Corinth Road by McDonald's. They got a crevice in the ground. It's the size of a football stadium, and it's about 10 feet deep, all to catch stormwater runoff. There must be some type of formula that the town uses to say, okay, this is the footprint, this is how much runoff that you gotta have, including the parking lot and what's not. Well, they never used that formula up there, and they got away with it. And the thing is, that cell tower shouldn't have ever gone there. It's caused nothing but problems. I had a petition I put out one time. I had 150 names put on the petition, and all the people were against that, putting that cell tower up, because our property, it's a small piece of property to begin with, and we just figured we'll take care of our own. And they had plenty of opportunity to go up at the West Mountain Infirmary to put a cell tower up there, but instead, Dan Stack, and you inherited all this problem from Dan Stack. I believe that's all his issue, this happened. But get back to this other thing that's more important than the runoff. Do you remember 2 years ago, Glens Falls come to you and said they want to build a solar farm on Upper Sherman Avenue? That solar farm was turned down because Queensbury School wanted to tax them, okay? And so they said, well, there wouldn't be any money made on this and it would be a wash, so they decided not to put the solar farm in there. I was for it, okay? But to get back to what I'm gonna say is this cell tower that goes up there on my property, before my property, the cell tower went there, my property full assessment value was $102,000. After the cell tower went up, it dropped $32,000. This is what these cell towers do. They have a reverse effect on our schooling systems. Fort Edward needs some money for their schools. The security's gonna have to go in there. They have a reverse effect when they go in the neighborhoods because they bring the value down, like they did with mine, okay? So it has a lot more. But the thing is, that cell tower is a manufacturer. And what they manufacture is microwave or radio waves. And if you don't have that, you can't use your cell phone. So it's a factory, and they should be charged the right rate for taxes. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you.
I didn't get it all in, but I have more.
I know that you had a lot more to say.
Could I interject? We have Superintendent Harrington out there. I don't know if you want to come up, Chris. I just wanted to see if you and I could have a conversation. The water tank that Mr. Ball was talking about, I did walk that last fall, and the road is in rough shape. I don't know if you've been up there last fall when the last time you were up there, but it is quite rutted. You could see where the water, there's a fork in the road, if you would. One section goes up to where the cell folks are, one goes to our water tank. It seems like the water that comes down from the water tank area is a 90-degree turn. Well, it doesn't make the 90, it goes shooting off into the property next door. I mean, it's a stormwater issue. I don't know if we should have Chazen or somebody look at it. The other concern I have is at some point, we're gonna have that tank maintained, probably not this year. I think you said you had other tanks in mind.
I think West Mountain's going to be done in August. They're looking to do it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I mean, I'm hoping that there's not a problem with getting equipment up there with these people and everything. That the road is.
Oh, they're fine with it. We're not building a tank. They scouted all these sites out beforehand, so that the road's not going to be an issue. But as far as the stormwater plan, I would recommend either CT Mail or Chazen kind of take a look at what may need to be done. The tank's been there since 1963. Whether Verizon has exacerbated the problem, I can't say, but Chazen or CT Mail would probably.
I mean, I think there was some conduits or something in there at one point, but they're kind of rutted through, and I'm not sure.
I know years ago we put in an overflow pipe, so in case our tanks do overflow, it doesn't just wash down the mountain. We've had issues in the past 35 years where we had the proper telemetry, tank would overflow and West Mountain would wash out. So we did about maybe 10 years ago, we put a pipe down that middle so that it would control if it did overflow, so it wouldn't wash out West Mountain. So I know we did that improvement, if you will, about a decade ago. Yeah. But as far as rainwater, I mean, the impervious area up there for the water storage tank is minor. But yeah, that's my recommendation to the board, and I can always meet, each case.
A lot has gone on in that property up there. I mean, a lot of trees came down in whatever storm that was years ago.
Yeah, Irene.
Trees have a great absorption rate. If the trees aren't there,
right.
The water could be a problem.
Right.
Okay. So maybe we could just get that taken a look at.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
For the record, I have some photos that you'd like to see a washout. Anyone like to see it?
Ron, you can submit that if you want. We'll get a look at it later. Anybody else like to speak to the board? Yeah.
Would anyone like to see this washout on the road?
Give it to Caroline.
Yeah, just submit it to Caroline.
Can I have it for the record, or no, you want it back?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know if my bolt's in there.
All right.
Thank you.
At the close of the October 12th, 2017 meeting of the Advisory Board of the Dunham Bay Wastewater Collection District, the results of the Lake George Waterkeeper's 2017 Dunham Bay algae analysis was presented and discussed. This report was distributed to the then town council, and I will make copies available for the three of you who were not on the board last year. In any case, this report says, quote, each year high levels of organic pollution have been observed based on the Polymer Pollution Index. These ratings from Dunham Bay have been consistently the highest known algae sampling within the Lake George watershed. All samples have indicated not just organic pollutions, but excessive nutrients and in some cases the presence of chemical pollution. Samples have had the same species of algae present that were found at the Shepherd Park pump station failure in Lake George Village, and all samples collected since 2008 have had species of cyanobacteria present similar to those that have caused Lake Erie toxic blooms. This is a serious problem. As this board was made aware, efforts were undertaken by the waterkeeper to identify probable algae blooms which could be associated with organic pollution as a sign of possible nearshore surface and or subsurface on-site septic system failure. Thereafter, the Queensbury Town Supervisor's Office prepared an action plan protocol. I have a copy of it here. Action plan protocol, outlining the sequence of activity necessary to abate pollution should any such pollution appear to be clear and convincing. Within the boundaries of the Dunham Bay Wastewater Collection District, several of these protocol outlined activities have been completed. The advisory board has off and on saw to it that 1, the shoreline has been explored to identify probable algae bloom which might be associated with inadequate functioning septic systems. 2, algae blooms have been photographed. First of all, 17 sites have been investigated showing signs of algae bloom. These are photographs of the algae bloom. Algae has been microscopically analyzed with respect to the Polymer Pollution Index, and report prepared identifying sites exhibiting probable organic pollution. And we have performed preliminary site analysis using the town's GIS data. In order to complete the implementation of the action plan, it is required that a site visit be undertaken whereby the property owner would be requested to supply 1, details recording the on-site wastewater treatment system, and 2, the maintenance record for the on-site wastewater treatment system. At this point, our advisory board needs the intervention of someone with authority to make contact with homeowner or business operator in order to enforce the voluntary compliance of the applicable codes, rules, and regulations. There's no one on our advisory board with this kind of enforcement authority. So we look to the town. Mr. Strau, we're having our first meeting this spring on the 19th of this month, and I would hope that you would be prepared to outline to us how we can effectuate this action plan with respect to contacting and enforcing remediation. Okay? Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to the board? Yes, sir?
Good evening, Paul Derby, President Glen Lake Protective Association, since we're on lakes. This is a request related to the proposed septic property transfer law that the town is looking at right now. And had several calls on it. And my request is that if you move forward with that this year, that you please do the public hearings when lake residents are here. And generally for Glen Lake, that is July to early August, because about half of our residents are seasonal. So our hope is that we can educate people and get the draft out there when it's done, and then have public hearings when they're available.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else like to speak to the board? Any on topic? Yes, sir.
Travis Whitehead. As much as I'd like to see this transfer law move along, I think, and for all the reasons that were just explained by Mr. Salvador, I do agree with that last resident that perhaps, you know, a short delay to include the owners of these often seasonal homes would be a good idea. But what I'd really like to ask a question about is, I just heard Caroline say that there was no correspondence, and I thought I sent in some correspondence about a week ago addressing what Mr. Strauh had said in regards to the disputed fact that it would have been permissible to have accepted the trade offer from Nortrax. Do you recall me sending that to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And sent to the town board as well.
Yes.
You didn't ask me to make it.
Well, I absolutely did ask you to make it a part of the record.
You did ask?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I must have missed that then, because I did not read that part.
Will you make it a part of the record?
I'm sorry?
Will you now make it a part of the record?
Yes, at the next board meeting.
Okay.
I'll have it here.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Anybody else? All right, seeing none. John, Salvador, yes, I drafted a flow chart that was reviewed by Kathy Pizzoni, and she added to it. And it's still a draft flow chart of how to address the algae situations that we see in Dunham's Bay and elsewhere, and I agree with you. It's a serious problem. And it is related to nutrients and pollution. The state is also working on algae blooms and their causes, and Lake George is one of the 12 lakes that they have included for grant funding in investigating this matter. As a matter of fact, some of us involved with Lake George issues were having a discussion on that this morning, on algae and algae blooms. That's how important it is, so we entirely agree with you. There are some things that are underway that we're doing, and I should check with Kathy Pizzoni. We're trying to find out as much about the septic systems around the lake as we can. The town of Queensbury has about 13 miles of shoreline on Lake George. Out of the total of 130, that's a substantial number for one town. And our populations are quite dense in that 13 miles, so no doubt we're contributing to it, so we need to address the problem, and I agree with you. And that conversation needs to go on. We need to have more with it. I won't be there at Thursday night. Tony is going to be there for me, or in addition, he's usually there, but I won't be able to make it because I have a conflict with another matter. So I won't be there, but you know, I think that, you know, that topic will be discussed, and so I agree with you. It's very important. We need to keep moving it along. Okay.
If I can make it clear, what we need is the town's support in the role of enforcement. somewhat. We know what the problems are. We're light years ahead of you, okay? We've documented, we've photographed it, it's been reported, it's been analyzed, there's no question, okay?
And we agree with you, and that is something we need to look into. I'm not disagreeing with you one bit on one thing. So we need to address that.
Will Mr. Medevere have, Thursday night, have some answers for us as to how the town will proceed to enforce this?
I don't know if we're there yet, but he certainly can do some homework on it and uncover what he can on the matter. I can't promise you anything. Now, on the matter of Paul Derby and the property transfer law, this town board has reviewed and hammered and worked and reworked. And so we've got it pretty much to our liking. That doesn't mean it's the way it should be. Town council is currently reviewing it. And when they get done reviewing it, if they offer any substantial changes that need discussion, we'll have a discussion at another town board workshop. As you know, we have town board meetings almost every Monday night. I don't know of any other town that has as many meetings as we do. We have 2 regular, open, filmed meetings, and we have 2 workshops where we discuss things like John Salvador just brought up. We've been discussing the property transfer law. Now, if town council, after they review it, is happy with the way it's presented, we will have a public hearing on that. And if this board wants to wait till July to have that public hearing, that's perfectly okay with me too. So that will get the people who are in the area and own those homes to have a discussion in this matter. But for the public, what are we talking about when we're talking about the property transfer law? If you are in waterfront residential zone and you sell your property, we want you to have your septic system inspected. And is it healthy and functioning like it should? Fine, transfer the property. If it needs attention, that is the time to give it the needed attention, okay? And that can happen either by the current property owner, or we have allowed some language that the future property owner can take care of it too under certain situations. So, but the fact is it has to be taken care of or there will be fines. All right, so in essence, it's an opportunity for the buyer to be assured that the property that they're buying has a healthy and functioning septic system as far as we could tell. Okay? So, in reaction to what some of the folks said. So, let's go to town board discussions. Tony?
After last Monday's meeting, we all took a field trip to a pigging operation, which was fascinating to watch over in Glenwood. They shot ice through the pipes to clean them, and while they started out very dirty, there was a point in time where I couldn't believe how dirty it got, but it cleared right up. So, question is, did you get any calls on that? No, nothing. John? No. So it was a very impressive operation to watch. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to hang out in 27 degrees while watching water flow. I know he left, but did he ever make it?
No, he had something else going on.
So ice is almost out on Lake George. It's taking everything out in its path. We lost a bunch of docks this weekend, so it's a pretty sad situation up there right now. It's amazing how Mother Nature can ruin a weekend for people, so it's unfortunate. But
all right, so when's spring coming?
Saturday, I guess. According to all the forecasts.
Well, it's going to be all the way up to 50?
Yeah, it's going to be 52 degrees on
great,
Saturday.
wonderful.
So, yeah, don't get too excited. It's not going to happen. So, that's it for me. Thanks.
All right, Catherine.
I have a couple of things. On Friday, this Friday, at SUNY Adirondack, there is a North Country Climate Conference. It's the 4th conference that there's been, and it has speakers. It's $30, that includes breakfast and lunch. And it has speakers, and it talks about the education side of things and the communication side, and how to practices for sort of climate communication and education. That's on Friday, and that's from 7:30, very early in the morning, until 2 o'clock. On Saturday, there is a march against gun violence that's taking place in Glens Falls, starting on South Street. It starts at noon, and it goes till 4 o'clock, and there'll be various speakers. On Sunday, there is Earth Day. It is Earth Day. Again, Tri-County New York Transition is holding an Earth Day celebration in City Park. There will be lots of activities. There's speakers, I believe. Supervisor Stroud will be speaking at that, and Kathy Mazzoni. And there'll be children's activities and music, and there'll be a couple of food trucks, and it should be a lot of fun, and that's from noon to 4 also. On Monday, there is a climate march, a climate rally, really, in Albany, should anyone be interested, which they're hoping will be the largest climate rally in Albany ever. And that begins also at noon, I believe. Yes, it begins at noon at Sheridan Avenue, and it marches to the Capitol building. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. George?
Well, the only thing I would mention is that it's hard to believe, Tony Medevere mentioned the weather, but we're in the middle of April, and in May, we have a spring cleanup pickup by the Highway Department. But for Ward 3, that's only 2 weeks away, so I only have 2 more weekends to get all this stuff done. Oh, they do? Okay, well, I would just point out that, check the town website to see when the pickup schedule is for your wards, and get your leaves and everything out there.
Yeah, once the snow leaves, you'll be able to do that.
And it might be gone by then, I don't know.
Anything else, George? That's it. Okay, thanks. Jennifer?
Sure, I just want to give some kudos to 10 Queensbury students who recently attended the 2018 Capital Region Youth Climate Summit. This is kind of dovetailing off of Catherine's, all of the different activities that are taking for those of us in the adult world, just to let you know that our youth are involved. And again, they took time out and they spent, it was a 2-day series down at Hudson Valley Community College, TechSmart campus in Malta. That's where participants heard from professionals in the industry and worked on climate action plans for their local communities. So I think, again, we should be giving them kudos for this, and perhaps in the future look to maybe bring some of our local high school students into some of our committees that we have. I think the earlier we can get them involved, the longer they'll keep at it. And the only other thing I want to mention is SUNY Adirondack is sponsoring conversations with women entrepreneurs. Rachel Novak is a speaker. She recently purchased her family's business. That takes place on April 18th from 12 until 1 o'clock at Adirondack Hall, and that is free to the public. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me go through my little satchel here and see what I have. I have to give kudos to National Grid for acting pretty quickly in responding to that big blow that we had. Parts of Queensbury, especially North Queensbury, did get hit a little bit, but not nearly as bad as Chestertown and up in that area. But I saw all the crews. They even brought in outside crews who were right on top of it, and I want to give them some credit where credit's due. All right, May. We all know how important May is, right?
Yep, tire recycling.
Well, it's also bike month.
Oh, even better.
Now, Tony, I mean, you should have known that. So, yeah, May is bike month, so don't forget it. If the snow's gone, maybe we can get out on our bikes, huh? Yeah.
We'll see.
Have you been out yet? Of course.
A couple 100 miles.
Snowstorm wouldn't stop you.
No.
Also, I have the announcement again. New York State requires that dogs 4 months of age or older that reside in the state for more than 30 days must be licensed within the municipality in which they live and renewed on an annual basis. When you come to license your dog, please bring proof of rabies vaccination and, if applicable, a neutering and spraying certificate to the Queensbury Town Clerk's office, where you will complete an application and pay a small fee. A dog tag will be issued along with the rabies tag, and it must be worn on your dog's collar at all times. The fee schedule: if your dog has been spayed and neutered, it's $6. Non-spayed, non-neutered is $13. Senior discount.
For the dog.
Yeah, that's except for an older dog gets a discount.
For the owner.
All right. So I get the discount, right?
Yes.
Okay. Non-spayed, non-neutered is $7. If you have any questions, please contact the town clerk's office at 761-8234. All right. Talking about May, Bike Month, it's also Tire Turn-In Month. May 5th, 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Warren County DPW in Warrensburg. First come, first served. Must be a resident of Warren County to drop off your tires. Limit 10 tires per household, $2 per tire. No tires or rims, no cut tires, no solid tires, no excessive dirt or mud on the tires, no tractor, loader, or heavy equipment tires, no tires taller than 36 inches. All right. If you meet that, you can turn in your tires, only pay $2 and get them out of your garage. Queensbury Land Conservancy put out their 2017 annual report. It's a great organization. They were with us today when we had the partners, peoples, talking about it. They have a great amount of acres along Lake George that they provide stewardship for. So I wanted to give them a mention and a bravo. While I'm on the Lake George topic, the Lake George News, Lake George Association put out their periodic publication, and they're talking about stormwater. And they say that stormwater is by far the greatest human contributor to water quality decline in Lake George.
Don't you believe it?
So you think septic systems, huh? In any event, they have a $54,500 grant that will improve water quality in Hewlett's. Now look at this, John. A whole article on algae, harmful algae blooms called HABs. And New York State is doing the study right now. Lake George is included in that study. So let's see what happens there.
Gonna live long enough?
I hope so, John. And again, they talk about $13,000 investment will yield a cleaner Lake George and boat landing. Lake George Association goes on and on and on and does a lot of great things for the lake, and we're glad they exist and glad they're here. And finally, everyone's been waiting for, the supervisor's report to town board and community. All right, following the last town board meeting, Tuesday, April 3rd, I went up and reviewed drainage issues on Gentry Lane and Cedar Court. Wednesday, April 4th, I met with Spencer Montgomery to discuss recreation development plans up at West Mountain. Thursday, Memorial Day Parade Committee meeting. This year's parade, which will be held Monday, May 28th, and the theme will be For Those Who Fell. And the parade is a collaborative effort by the City of Glens Falls and the Town of Queensbury. It will proceed north on Glen Street from Maple Street to Crandall Park, where we'll have a remembrance ceremony. And so please attend. That's Memorial Day. All right, next day, April 6th, Friday, I toured the county facilities on Lower Warren, or River Street, if you will. Had a conference call with National Grid, and they reviewed and got input from me. As far as I knew, we talked about restoration of power and the efforts and what happened with the blowdowns and so forth, where the safe harbor locations were located. And then that night, Friday night, at the Lake George Historical Society's annual banquet. And then that weekend, I did not come into town. I worked on my taxes. Monday, April 9th, had a Adirondack Housing Association meeting and a town board workshop. April 10th, Tuesday, Academic Student Affairs meeting, and a discussion on Queensbury's boundary and border, one of John Salvador's favorites. April 11th, Wednesday, Finance Committee had a Pathway Quarter Minute meeting, and we did site visits on Morton Road, Monterey Road, and Sunnyside North. Thursday, April 12th, had a SUNY Garnet Society breakfast, and those are people that are willing to donate to the foundation at SUNY Adirondack in terms of their wills. Had a annual Ethics and Business Awards dinner that night, Thursday night, being put on by the Adirondack Samaritan Counseling Center. So the Adirondack Samaritan Counseling Center and Dr. Andrew Costa's students composed a rubric and determined 3 winners among many that were potential for this and winning the Ethics and Business Award. And this year's winners, ADK Technical Solutions, Managed Marketing, and Precise Painting and Wall Covering. Friday, April 13th, I did a tour of the airport facilities and met with Ron Ball. On April 14th, Saturday, I met with Ron Ball. And then that night, White House had their annual Pizza and Wings event at the Cool and Cheering Civic Center. And this is an organization, a great organization, that helps Warren and Washington County homeless youth find some direction, find some shelter. It's a great organization. And then today, I had my Lake George Partnership Advisory Committee meeting that I referred to when we had this town board meeting, and that's it for me. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, I wish to thank Look TV and our cameraman, Joe Barlow, and our sponsors, especially Stored Tech, Town Council, Town Clerk, and Town Board, and the public for attending this town board meeting tonight. Motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilman Farrell, seconded by Councilwoman Switzer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. We're now adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pennell's Restaurant, classic Italian American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pennell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pennell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pennell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.